I've made the offer to meet with Mark Duggan's family. They haven't taken me up on it at this moment, but if it helps them, that's fine. But obviously, I'm not. I don't. If they don't want to, that's their choice. I think anyone can understand that a family who've lost a loved one, that's always hard, and in such an awful situation as this, and when they're hoping for a different verdict, you can understand they're upset, and that we understand that as well. We don't run firearms operations with the intent that anybody should die, but the tragedy is that even though we run 3,000 operations a year, we can't reduce that risk to zero, and 1 or 2 times a year officers do fire shots. So this is as we confront gun criminals to protect Londoners. I mean, expressing sort of sympathy and empathy sort of on interviews and things is one thing, but I'd want to do it face to face. That's much more human. And whilst I guess we'll always have disagreements between each other in terms of our interpretation of what happened, the jury have spoken. 10 ordinary men and women of London have made the decision that they thought Mark Duggan was awfully killed. I want to talk to family about is there anything more we can do to rebuild relationships with them. I know that'd be difficult. I think it's possible, and I think some commentators can overstate. Over the last 2 years, confidence in the policing of London has grown, and it's the majority of people in London have confidence in the police, not the minority. But there are, of course, there's a history with relations with the police and the black community that goes back to the 80s and before that, and it'd be foolish to ignore that. We think we've improved it. Some of the contentious issues like stop and search, the Commissioner's been very committed to changing how we do that over the last couple of years. So we're doing less stop and search, but we're making it more effective by being more targeted. So we're not shrinking away from tackling crime, we're being just as assertive, but focusing it so we're more effective at stopping and searching the right people. Those sort of things we will keep doing. We try to strengthen community relations. The local chief superintendent running the area, Victor Elisa, is very, very good in that regard and works with young people a lot. And there's always more we can do, and the Commissioner today is asking community leaders, elected and non-elected, what more do they think we can do, and how will they work with us to help us improve relations. And it's one of the things for me, I hope Londoners do have confidence in our detectives and firearms officers who confront these difficult threats. Firearms officers in particular have split-second decisions. I think people who watched the awful incident at Woolwich, that unusual situation where there was so much video footage, could see the horrifically frightening speed at which that situation developed, and those firearms officers had to make split-second judgments. Because they weren't on video, and that's something we hope to change with officers, but because they weren't on video, the officers involved in 2011, they've had 2.5 years of lots of mischief and silly commentary and the internet and all over the place suggesting what they did and didn't do. They turned up to do a day's work 2011, they didn't want to kill anybody. Big Street felt he had no choice but to pull the trigger, and the jury felt that was reasonable. But he's had 2.5 years having his ordinary work scrutinised. Nobody could be more accountable than that. Cameras, yeah, no. So if we sort of, regardless of whether an operation went well or not, and so the jury were largely supportive of this one, you always think it's the more we could do. And from our perspective, we're confident in the professionalism of our firearms officers. People saw that with Woolwich. We've got nothing to hide, and rather than having these awful 2.5-year process, it's not fair on the family, it's not fair on the officers. And if we had a video of what went on, it's very clear cut into whether the officers did everything they could do. So we've got nothing to hide, we want to do that. Technically, with all the kit officers carry, it's got some logistical problems, but we want to be testing that on some of our firearms operations by April next year, and then as that test builds, in due course, rolling it out more widely. And we don't have any information that there are people out there actively planning disorder, but of course, Londoners would think we were slightly naive if we had no preparation at all. So what we're doing today is what I would call a heightened state of readiness. Whilst we don't have any specific information, if something was to spark an incident or some disorder was to break out, we've got plenty of officers available to sort of nip these things in the bud. But at the moment, we're hoping that won't happen. We're going to be asking community leaders to help us in terms of damping down any sort of extreme comments that anybody makes. And we're grateful to the family for their comments over the last sort of few hours in terms of their expectations that people shouldn't go out and cause difficulty.